What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Awesemo team, talking some college football DFS ahead of Thursday, October the 14th. We have a two-game slate. We are going to get to everything you need to know about this slate. But before we get started, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. We will be bringing you behind the glass today, showing you some of the tools we have, everything from ownership to regular projections, to slate write-ups, everything you could possibly need, and our player usage tool, which I am going to show you right now to talk about our first game. It is Navy taking on Memphis, a 56-point total. Navy, they run the classic triple option offense. Memphis, they are going to be an up-tempo, pass-friendly scheme, and both of these teams have shown some weakness on defense. For Memphis, they are a pass funnel. That does not help against Navy here, who runs the triple option. They are seldom throwing the ball, just an 18% pass rate. Overall, this game is a 56-point total. It is a 10.5-point spread in favor of Memphis. So what are we going to do with this Navy team? Playing the quarterbacks for Navy is a tricky proposition. You're basically treating them like a running back because of their high run rate overall. Tai Lavatai finally appears to be healthy for Navy here. He is going to be the leading rusher on a week-to-week basis as far as opportunity goes typically. Navy uses their triple option offense a lot with the quarterback position. Lavatai only averages 54 rushing yards per game, but he's now seen 20 carries in back-to-back games. This is a very weak quarterback slate, so I think he has to be in consideration just because of the load he's going to bear in this offense. But it's still a tricky spot with Memphis being primarily a pass funnel defense. They are allowing about 150 yards on the ground per game, so they are beatable in that realm as well. In the true running game, they are going to use a fullback. Isaac Ruos is the typical starter here. They also use James Harris a bit. He's going to siphon off some carriage. Harris is averaging 9.6 opportunities per game. Ruos is averaging 12.4. So you can already see this offense mainly flows through the quarterback position as rushers. Neither has been particularly efficient, but overall, the leader among the running backs is going to be Ruos at 4,900. So he should be considered for that reason. James Harris is basically just a pure punt play. For the slot backs, these are going to be the guys that are kind of the up backs in Navy's offense. The starters are Carlos Acey and Chance Warren. Acey is averaging 4.6 touches per game to Warren's 4.8. Warren is more active as a pass catcher when Navy does throw. It's rare, but when they do, Chance Warren is a guy they will utilize there. They're just GPP plays. I think you'd rather get to Ruos based on the secure load at the fullback position. Among receivers, you're never really targeting receivers for Navy. Michael Cooper is the leader. He's only averaging 2.2 targets per game. Again, for Navy's offense, you're prioritizing the quarterback. If you are playing one, again, a little bit tricky on today's two-game slate, but that's Lavatai or Ruos and James Harris are the top plays for me. On the other side, Memphis has been dynamic. They're running a ton of plays, and they're fast. So you get a lot of volume, and that is reflected in Seth Hennigan's 323 yards per game. Somewhat mobile, 24 yards there. He far and away projects as the best quarterback on this slate. I think you can get away with running just one quarterback today because of the weak options we have. Ultimately, I still prefer two, and Hennigan's the clear option here. You want to be playing him. In the run game, we saw Brandon Thomas basically lead the team in touches week over week until he fumbled late in a game and then was benched 4 carries in their second most recent contest. Luckily, Memphis went right back to him last week. He has 18 carries, and he's now averaging 16.3 opportunities per game, some of that depressed by the 4-carry game. You can see he's seen at least 16 carries in 3 of his last 4. So Brandon Thomas, he is a player with good volume for this team. He's averaging 97.5 rushing yards per game. He's middling in price, completely viable here. The backup is Rodriguez Clark. He had just 4 touches last week after handling 19 in the Thomas benching. He should be in his change of pace role unless something crazy happens. And he is also going to be spelled by Kylan Watkins, who was injured early in the year, but he's handled 8 touches in each of his first 2 games back. So Kylan Watkins, kind of that GPP play you're potentially looking to on the 2-game slate. Very active as a pass catcher as well. Among receivers, Calvin Austin has been the straight-up alpha for Memphis. He's averaging 12.2 targets per game, 139 receiving yards, a 37% target share. the clear stacking option with Hennigan, and salary's not very tight tonight. You can easily get to Austin. I think he should be a preferred play with his immense role. If you do fade Austin for whatever reason, or you decide to play multiple pass catchers, their tight end, Sean Dykes, is actually functioning as the true pass catcher number 2, 73 yards per game, 5.3 targets per game. He's active, just nowhere near as active as Austin, but that's reflected in price. Javon Ivory has been the true wide receiver 2 when he's on the field. 266 yards in the year, 5.7 targets per game in Memphis' last 4. That's fantastic. Their wide receiver 3 has been banged up at times. Gabriel Rogers is actually listed as a running back, but when he's healthy, he's been running more routes and playing true wide receiver, similar to like if you think about Antonio Gibson in college for Memphis, that kind of role. So that's Gabriel Rogers, but he has missed games recently. When Gabriel Rogers is out, it's Eddie Lewis. Both of them are extremely cheap, priced at the stone minimum. So looking for cheap attachments, you can play either Gabriel Rogers or Eddie Lewis. Just watch the inactives. Eddie Lewis popped up for 8 targets in Memphis' most recent game, again, with Gabriel Rogers out. Game number 2. We have Georgia Southern taking on South Alabama. Georgia Southern also runs the triple option. We have 2 triple option teams on this slate. Georgia Southern has just really struggled so far this year, so the pass rate is actually 37%. Unless they get down in games, which they have a lot, they're typically not going to pass with this frequency. But their only wins have come against Gardner-Webb and Arkansas State, and you now have them as 3-point underdogs to a South Alabama team, which is a little bit underrated heading into this spot. The Jaguars of South Alabama started the year 3-0 with some pretty convincing wins, but they dropped their 2 most recent games to Louisiana and Texas State. Both of those losses occurred by 2 points, and we just saw how good Louisiana was on Tuesday, knocking off App State. So very talented South Alabama team here. The total overall is 51 points, so leaves a little bit to be desired. But each of these teams still implied for more points than Navy, so we need to consider it. In the pass game for Georgia Southern, again, they run the triple option, and Justin Tomlin, he's a player who has been in somewhat of a timeshare with Cam Ransom. And it's basically been a situational playing time for Cam Ransom. He did start one game during a Tomlin suspension, but he has at least 5 pass attempts in every game this year. So he's going to siphon off enough work to make Tomlin kind of a tenuous play at best. Tomlin does have solid mobility with 116 yards on the ground. But again, they're just not throwing the ball enough. He's not active enough as a rusher in this triple option offense to really be worth a look outside of tournaments. If Ransom got the start, would also have some interest, but again, short leash for both. In the run game here, Logan Wright has led a running back by committee, but there hasn't really been a discernible usage pattern here. Wright leads the team with 81.7 rushing yards per game on 13.3 touches, but he hasn't seen more than 13 touches in any of his last 4 games. He's still the team's 3rd most targeted receiver, but we've now seen Gerald Green average 8.7 touches per game. He popped up for a massive 19-touch game in week 4, but hasn't seen more than 6 in the last 2 games. J.D. King, Jalen White, Amari Jones are also involved here. White has 16 carries over Georgia Southern's last 2. King has 15 carries over their last 2. Amari Jones is a pure pass catcher. Really tough when there's 5 backs in the mix here for Georgia Southern. I think if you're prioritizing any of them, perhaps it's one of the cheap guys, J.D. King, Jalen White, just because they save you so much salary and their usage hasn't been drastically different than Logan Wright or Gerald Green, the more expensive options. In the pass game, they have funneled a lot of opportunities to one receiver. Caleb Hood, he actually plays tight end for them. Even though Caleb Hood is a guy who has a huge target share, 35.7%, he's still only averaging 37.5 yards per game, due largely to inefficiency of the passing attack overall. He still does average 8 targets per game in their last 4, 7.5 on the year. So Caleb Hood, not expensive, 4,400 on DraftKings. He's somebody you could potentially target. Outside of him, nobody else averages more than 2.3 targets per game or 17 receiving yards on the year. So it's kind of Caleb Hood or bust for Georgia Southern in the pass game. For South Alabama, you have transfer Jake Bentley still at the helm. Not really mobile, 7 rushing yards on the year. And he's a low upside passer, just 30 attempts per game, averaging 222 yards. However, in the context of this slate with really weak quarterback play overall, Bentley is somebody to at least look at here. He is going to pop in a lot of optimals just out of lack of options, but still I could see potentially playing a running back over him or a wide receiver. It's just it's a pretty weak slate in terms of the premier option. So Bentley should probably be your cash consideration as your super flex or second quarterback. In the run game, Kareem Walker's been out for 2 straight games. He's questionable for this contest, but he's been the clear lead runner when healthy. He's averaging 19.7 touches per game, and I don't see any reason why this would be different when he returns. So Walker would be the top play if active. Terrion Avery's also been battling a bit of an injury. He is on the year the second most active back, 57 touches, 50 carries. However, in recent games, Brian Hill has been very active. He's averaging 15.7 touches per game in the last 3. And even AJ Phillips popped up for a 19 carry game in their most recent contest. AJ Phillips, he's widely viewed as the RB2 right now on DraftKings. He's the second most expensive rusher on South Alabama. I think you can play Brian Hill and AJ Phillips if you get news that Kareem Walker's out. Again, really tough to discern who is the lead back here. But overall, I think these backs should be prioritized by price. Walker, 1 when healthy, followed by Phillips, followed by Hill, with Avery kind of bringing up the end of this group. Among wide receivers, Jalen Tolbert is the team's leader. He's averaging 109 receiving yards per game. That equates to 8.8 targets per game. Not the same levels opportunity as Calvin Austin, but he is very much in the mix. And if you can't afford Austin, he's a solid consolation prize. Interested in Jalen Wayne here too. He's only averaging 37 yards per game on 6 targets, but he's the clear wide receiver 2 in the offense. It's just so much of the efficiency has flown through Tolbert so far. And then to close this out, you have Colin Lacey. A lot of these guys are questionable, but he's the wide receiver 3. Lincoln Sefcik, he's the tight end. As long as these guys are active, you can certainly play. Their coach was vocal this week saying Lacey and Sefcik, Avery, these players are between questionable and probable, so you're looking like all of them will play. But again, just monitor the status of some of these South Alabama wide receivers, tight ends, and pass catchers throughout the night, making sure they all play. Overall, the slate comes down to targeting the 2 Memphis studs, Austin and Hennigan. Thomas, very good play as well. Navy, you're looking at Lavatai and Ruos. And then for Georgia Southern, South Alabama, I think prioritizing the South Alabama side with players like Kareem Walker, if healthy, otherwise AJ Phillips, Jake Bentley, Tolbert, and Wayne. But that will do it for our slate today. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments your favorite play. I'm Matt Gajewski on Twitter at Matt_Gajewski. Hit the thumbs up on the way out, and we will catch you again next time.